The Drey Dossier's done it again on ya, Drey. It's so relevant. It's so relevant to everywhere in the world. Why? Because it's AI. It's all the tech. It's all the shit that's going to take over everything that we all use in the Western world. That Israel needs to destroy everything around them to expand. So then what happened? They destroy again everything around them to expand. Why? Israel is the back door for the tech bros into the eastern lands, into the Arab nations. They're using Israel to destroy their sovereignty. I'm not even sure that's where this is going to go. I just watched a couple of seconds of it, or maybe a minute. The automation of death and the death of accountability. If AI is in control of everything, nobody's accountable for whatever consequences that come. Nobody's taking accountability for anything now. AI is only going to make it worse. So let's watch the real life Scully. Hey Scully, if you're Scully, I'd love to be Mulder. I'd work with you any day. No, people, settle down. I said work, not twerk. This young lady is brilliant. Like I say, the more I watch Whitney Webb and I watch this girl, the more this young lass seems legit and genuine, and the more Whitney Webb looks like an engineer of sorts, writing the books. She goes away for a while and then comes back and she's got another book. Come on. Whitney Webb isn't an investigator, she's an engineer. Anyway, just watch this and shut up.
September 2nd, 2025, the Caribbean Sea. 2 people are in the water. Their boat just got hit by a missile, 9 of their friends are dead. The boat is completely destroyed and they're clinging onto debris, trying not to drown. For 41 minutes they're on camera, high-resolution drone feed. The US military's watching them in real time. Just 2 human beings waving their arms, moving, very much alive. That is, until a second missile is deployed and kills them both. Now, simply put, this is considered a war crime. Not my opinion, by the way. This is international law, the Geneva Conventions, the Pentagon's own manual saying that you cannot strike shipwrecked persons, okay? Every military lawyer has reviewed this case and agrees this is a nonpartisan issue. But here's what's been bothering me for the past 4 months, is that we can't figure out who decided to kill them. The Pentagon story has changed no less than 6 times. There's no documentation that's been released, and there's this 41-minute gap that just doesn't make sense for a phone call to a lawyer. But it does make sense for something else, I think. AI-assisted targeting. But before we get into breaking down this mess of a case, I'm Drey, and this is the Drey Dossier. Welcome if you're new, and if you're returning, where have you been? I missed you. We like to get a little crazy over here on this channel, okay? We like to break down the infrastructure behind modern power, technology, and really pinpoint who is making the decisions around here, because I'll give you one hint. I don't think it's the president. And y'all, independent media is really going through it right now. You know, all of our mainstream media is getting bought up by the same guy who's now buying up different independent media sites. And so it's just really hard to get good information out to people. So please, if you care about reporting like this, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel here. Turn on the notification bell if you're feeling spicy. And if you want to see any of my documentation or sources for this video, all of that is going to be over on my Substack, the Drey Dossier. It's free to subscribe, or if this kind of journalism matters to you and you want to support it, you can subscribe for $5 a month. Totally optional though, but much appreciated. AI is being used in warfare. Point blank, that's not news. The Pentagon's actually been pretty open about investing in AI targeting systems, autonomous drones, and algorithmic decision making. That's all public knowledge. Now, what isn't public knowledge is what happens if those systems are ever involved in a war crime. If being the operative word. Now, in normal circumstances, when a human commander makes a bad call, wrong target, or accidentally kills civilians, that commander faces a court-martial. Their career's over. They might even go to prison. But in any case, a human being is carrying the weight of that decision. Let's just say if, theoretically, AI generates a recommendation and a human validates it without fully understanding, Who's held accountable? Is it the operator who clicked approve, or the programmer who wrote the code, or perhaps the general who brought in the system? It's very unclear, and that lack of clarity makes me very, very nervous, understandably so. And that's the question that September 2nd raises for me. Not is AI being used in warfare, because we know that it is. The question is, if AI-assisted decisions produce war crimes, who answers for it? Because right now, the answer appears to be no one. Let me start by explaining what AI targeting systems the Pentagon is already using, and I'm going off of what different companies and military officials have already publicly announced. The main system's called Project Maven, and it's spelled by none other than the one, the only, your favorite surveillance tool and mine, Palantir. The crowd is screaming because we have surveillance tools following us. It's already had about $1.8 billion worth of contracts. And from what I can gather, Maven analyzes drone footage and sensor data in real time to help commanders make targeting decisions. So it watches what the drones see, and it identifies objects and people and characterizes their behavior and generates recommendations. Because you know how AI tools are famously good at characterizing the nuances of human behavior? In tests conducted with the 18th Airborne Corps, Maven had successfully identified objects about 60% of the time. Human analysts did it 84% of the time, but we like AI better because it's faster. And then 1 year later, in May of 2025, Shield AI and Palantir announced their partnership. On Shield AI's website, they described their capability as directing autonomous systems to track, monitor, or strike as needed. Strike is an interesting word to choose. They used that word, by the way. So by September of 2025, AI systems that watch drone footage, identify targets, and recommend strikes aren't some far-fetched, futuristic ideal. They exist. Companies were publicly announcing that they were already in use. Now, here's why I'm telling you all of this, because the
Ha! What did I say in, you still recording? Please still be recording. I have troubles with this thing. What did we say in... Oh, I can't remember what it's in. Oh, it's one of those. Just go back and watch them all. Why wouldn't you? They're all good. There it is. Megatards be waiting for the tech bros to make AI good enough for full disclosure deepfakes. Seems to me that all this stalling for the past 5 or 6 years about full disclosure and Q and all the bullshit, the white hats and black hats, has all just been an hour story that's never ending, just to keep everyone hanging on to hopium until AI takes over. But you know, what would I know? I just actually investigate and do research rather than just believe what other people tell me, Matt. No, you're not living rent-free in my head, but man am I in yours.
U.S. military, specifically Southern Command under Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, started running strikes in the Caribbean, hitting what they called go-fast boats. It's those cigarette-style speedboats that drug traffickers use when they're moving cocaine, from what I've read. Now, at first, this seemed pretty straightforward. Just drug interdiction and counter-narcotics operations, nothing unusual. But the more I watched, the more something felt off to me. It was the escalating pattern and the increasing tempo and the body count rising month after month. I mean, something about it just felt so methodical, you know, like watching a system being refined in real time. In fact, it reminded me of something that I'd seen before, or at least heard about before, in Gaza. You know, Israel has been using AI targeting systems called Lavender and Where's Daddy, and Israeli intelligence officers have admitted publicly that they were essentially testing it on a captive population. And those Israeli officers have even so much as said that at first we checked the machine's recommendations, but at some point we just relied on the automated system. But hey, I guess you don't have to be that choosy when you're committing a genocide. Right? But yeah, it was essentially this cycle of testing, iteration, refinement, and acceptable error rates, and then deployment at scale. And that's what the Caribbean was starting to feel like to me. And then I remembered back to September 2nd, and everything crystallized. So let's talk about the crime. So on September 2nd, 2025, the Caribbean Sea, just after 11 in the morning, a go-fast boat with 11 people on board, cocaine in the hold, allegedly, and U.S. military aircraft circling overhead with high-resolution cameras recording everything. 11 a.m., the first missile strike. 9 people are killed instantly. And the boat doesn't just sink, by the way. It literally splits apart from the impact. Complete destruction, smoke visible for miles. But 2 people survive. And for the next 41 minutes, those survivors are visible on the military's drone feed. High-resolution video of 2 human beings clinging to floating debris, waving their hands and arms, trying to stay afloat. And the boat is destroyed. There's no engine. There's no way for them to go anywhere. And the Pentagon would later admit in a congressional testimony that these 2 people had no communication devices, no radio, no cell phone, no way to call for help. I mean, by this point in time, they're literally just 2 people in the ocean trying not to drown. And at 11:41, the second missile strikes. Both survivors are killed. Now, I'm no military lawyer, but I've read enough of the Geneva Conventions, the international treaties that govern how warfare is supposed to be conducted, to understand what this was. Those 2 survivors, unable to fight, unable to flee, and just clinging to wreckage in the water, under international law, are classified as shipwrecked persons. And shipwrecked persons are protected from attack under the Second Geneva Convention. Hell, the Pentagon even has its own manual about this, the Law of War Manual, and it says explicitly, persons who have been incapacitated by wounds, sickness, or shipwreck are in a helpless state. It would be dishonorable and inhumane to make them the object of attack. Not...
Someone want to show that to Ricardo Bosie? The Mr. Law of War Manual man himself? I think he's full of shit. Just saying.
Not a lot of room for ambiguity there. I mean, everybody knew this. The United Nations condemned this. Human rights organizations condemned it. Former judge advocates general. The military's own lawyers called it clearly illegal. This is a nonpartisan issue. Under the laws of war, the second strike was a war crime. And the worst part is that we can't establish who made the decision. See, everybody kept changing their story, so I started tracking the Pentagon's official explanation back in November, and watching it evolve has been like watching someone try to remember the details of a lie they told 6 months ago. From September through late November, almost 3 months, the story was simple. It was one strike, it was routine narcotics operations, nothing to see here. And then on November 28th, CNN reports that there were actually 2 strikes, and it was the second one that had killed the 2 survivors. And then Defense Secretary Hegseth responds, well, I watched the first strike live, but I didn't stick around for the second one. I had to move on to other meetings. Yeah, not gonna lie, Pete, that's a pretty weird thing to say in this context. And then the same day, the Washington Post reports that multiple military sources say Hegseth gave an order after the first strike, and the quote that they report is, eliminate everyone, or kill them all, or something to that effect. And then the next day, on November 29th, the Pentagon puts out a statement calling the Post's reporting fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory, and Hegseth absolutely did not say that, blah, 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 blah. And then early December, what do you know, the story shifts again. Okay, fine, there were 2 strikes, but Hegseth didn't order the second one. It was Admiral Frank Bradley, the Southern Command commander. He made the call independently. He consulted a military attorney first, Colonel Kara Hamaguchi at Fort Bragg, and she reviewed the situation and determined that it was lawful because the survivors were salvaging drugs. First of all, that justification doesn't even hold up. Under the Second Geneva Convention, might I remind you, it is completely irrelevant what they're doing in the water. It doesn't matter what they're floating near. It doesn't matter what they could or could not be salvaging. The only question that matters under international law is, can they still fight? And 2 unarmed people clinging to debris after their boat was destroyed cannot fight. Sorry, that's the legal standard. Period. Like, salvaging drugs is not an exception to the Geneva protection. Oh, what, you think you found a loophole to the Geneva Conventions? This is a justification that has no basis in the law of armed conflict. Any military attorney would know that. Which raises a question. Did that call actually happen? Because it's been 142 days and the Pentagon has not produced one single piece of documentation showing that Bradley called Hamaguchi. No call logs, no memo from Hamaguchi explaining her legal reasoning, no written authorization. Nothing. Now, if you're a military commander and you're about to order a strike that kills 2 people who survived the first attack, you would document that. I mean, look me in the eyes and tell me that you would not get that in writing. That is standard operating procedure. It protects you legally, it protects your JAG officer, it creates an official record, so where is it? Where's the record? And then on December 4th, Bradley testifies before Congress under oath, and while being questioned, he admits something that blows this case wide open. He said that the survivors had no communication devices. No radios, no phones, nothing. Which means that Hegseth's earlier claim that they might be signaling for help or calling for backup was impossible. They literally could not do that. So now I'm looking at 6 different versions of what happened. 6 different versions explaining who decided what and why, each version replacing the last with no corrections and no clarification. If there was a clear authorization for the strike, if there's some solid legal justification, if there's proper documentation, then why does the story keep changing? And why, after 142 days, has none of that documentation been released? So I did what I always do when I feel like these clowns are bold-faced lying to us. I went through the databases. I started searching through defense contract databases like HireGov, federal procurement records, and looking to see whatever AI contracts the Department of Defense had been signing. What systems, when, who was getting the money. I wanted to see if anything lined up with these strikes. And that's when I found something rather interesting. August 7th, 2025, the Air Force Research Laboratory awards a contract. And it was a contract to Firestorm Labs Incorporated out of San Diego for $1,249,850. The stated purpose? War Room, Artificial Intelligence Enhanced Digital Mission Rehearsal and Operational Planning Platform. AI software for planning military missions. Basically, digital rehearsal means running through simulations before you execute. And from what I understand, the operational planning means mapping out what to hit, when to hit it, and what the expected outcomes are. So this is the playbook software, right? What you would use to plan a strike campaign before it starts. Okay, so that's on August 7th, right? On August 8th, the very next day, President Trump signs an executive order authorizing military action against drug cartels. The New York Times breaks the story, and Secretary of State Rubio confirms it publicly, saying that the order, quote, allows us to now target what they're operating and to use other elements of American power, including intelligence agencies, the Department of Defense, and whatever, to target these groups. And then 25 days later, on September 2nd, 2025, the Caribbean strikes begin. And that's when 11 people die. The 2 survivors spend 41 minutes in the water before the second missile kills them, committing a war crime. Now look, any good OSINT investigator will tell you that timing alone is not proof of anything. But I will say, when you stack this next to everything else, like the stories that keep changing, the 142 days of missing documents, and the fact that I can't seem to find phase 1 of this contract for War Room anywhere in public records, it raises question. Was the war on drugs in the Caribbean perhaps just an excuse to field test AI targeting systems on a population that nobody would defend? So who built Firestorm Labs? Who builds AI mission planning software for the Pentagon the day before the president authorizes a strike campaign? The CEO, Dan Magee, spent 2012 to 2016 as an intelligence and strategy analyst at Langley Intelligence Group. That's the CIA contractor. So for 4 years, he was basically doing intelligence work for the CIA. And then from 2016 to 2021, he founded Citadel Defense, building counter-drone systems that got sold to Navy SEALs for Iraq deployment. Though the company was acquired in 2021 for a measly 9 figures, at least $100 million, but probably more, if we're being honest. And then in 2022, he founded Firestorm Labs. And the co-founder, Chad McCoy, was a former JSOC operator, which means Joint Special Operations Command, meaning that McCoy was a member of SEAL Team 6. And fun fact, he was on the actual team that rescued Captain Phillips from the Somali pirates in 2009. Remember that? Remember Captain Phillips? The standoff, the snipers, the Tom Hanks movie? Oof, what a time. So this guy knows exactly what JSOC needs because he was JSOC. And then I looked into the investors. Lockheed Martin Ventures led the seed round with around $12.5 million. Then Booz Allen Hamilton also invested in, they're a massive CIA NSA contractor, and the total funding before a single federal contract is $77 million. Yeah, so this isn't your average Silicon Valley AI tech startup. Okay, now let's go back to the War Room contract. So it's labeled Phase 2 SBIR, and that's a small business innovation research, and these programs work in phases. So generally speaking, Phase 1 is a proof of concept. So like, here's $150,000 to $250,000, show us this thing can work. Phase 2 is often development. So here's $1 to $2 million, build it out, test it out, make sure it works, and then Phase 3 is full-on deployment. So if this is Phase 2, then that means there has to be a Phase 1 from 2023 or 2024, right? I mean, that's how this program works. You can't just skip Phase 1. And when I tell you I searched every public database, SBIR.gov, Defense Technical Information Center, Federal Procurement Records, Air Force SBIR archives, nothing. There is no Phase 1 contract for a war room anywhere in the public records. So that could mean a couple of things. That could mean that Phase 1 is classified, which would mean that the system was considered so sensitive that they hid even the proof of concept phase, but then that would make sense that they would have Phase 2 be public. Or someone funded War Room's development privately before the government contract, meaning that the system was already built and operational when the Air Force signed that contract on August 7th. I mean, either way, no matter how you split it, War Room was definitely not being built in August. It was already ready. The contract was paperwork for something that they already knew about, which means that when Trump signed that authorization on August 8th, that the AI mission planning system may have already been in place. And here's the Pentagon's official story for those 41 minutes between the first missile strike and the second one. Bradley watches the feed, decides that the survivors might be a threat, calls Colonel Hamaguchi, she reviews the situation, says it's lawful, and then gives him the order. And might I remind you, we are 142 days in and there is still no information, no call log, nothing from Hamaguchi. If that review actually did happen as they say it did, there should absolutely be a record. And if it's lawful, then that record will protect them. So where is it? But even if we do assume that the call took place, right, the timing still doesn't quite make sense to me. Asking, can I strike 2 unarmed people clinging for their lives onto wreckage after their boat was destroyed is not a 41-minute legal puzzle. Literally, the only way the conversation could go is, are they armed? No. Can they fight? No. Then they're protected under the Geneva Conventions. That's it. 2-minute call, max. So what filled the rest of this time? Think about what AI would be like in that loop. So systems like Maven analyze drone feeds, classify what they see, and produce engage or don't engage recommendations. That's their whole job. That's the pipeline. Ingesting the video, labeling the survivors, scoring a threat, or continuing the mission, pushing a recommendation out to the mission system. And all of that would take more than just a couple of minutes, right? Especially once you wait for the, what does Pete Hegseth call it? The fog of war to settle down. And once you're told to trust the system, you execute what it serves you without really interrogating it. So all I'm pontificating here is that if an AI-assisted system recommended that second strike on September 2nd, and someone simply validated it, that's the same pattern. Trust the output, act on it. Don't think too hard about whether or not it's legal. Remember, we're here to move fast and break things. And by late 2025, the Air Force was already basically publicly showing off this kind of automation. In the Capstone 2025 exercise, they tested the kill chain automation and AI for command and control with Palantir's tools in the loop. And I firmly believe that if they were confident enough to brief it in November, then the capability existed in September and War Room's contract was signed in August. The timelines are just too hard to ignore. I've never seen a timeline more timeliney in my life. And Firestorm didn't stop at War Room either. On October 20th, 2025, 48 days after the War Room award, they got $18 million for Tempest 50, autonomous drones with 36-hour endurance and weapons-capable payload. And then by January, they landed a $100 million contract for advanced autonomous platforms and drone swarms. You're telling me in roughly 5 months, one company went from AI mission planning to autonomous strike platform, from 0 federal contracts to over $119 million in awards. That is not a slow, cautious adoption. That is a system that is built to be accelerated. And over that same period, the Caribbean strike tempo climbed. September 2nd, 11 dead. By late October, 14 strikes, 61 dead. Mid-November, 21 strikes and 83 dead. And by late December, 28 strikes and 104 people dead. All of them with cocaine in the hold, though, no doubt, no doubt, no doubt. And then on January 3rd, 2026, Operation Absolute Resolve, the Venezuelan invasion, begins, using the same command structure that had just run this Caribbean campaign. So to me, that doesn't look like a random interdiction. It looks like a test bed. It looks like lots of targets, minimal political costs, no air defenses, fast feedback, and steadily increasing the complexity. Exactly how you would shake down a new system before you take it into a bigger war. I had to go put a jacket on. It got cold all of a sudden, and I don't have heat in my apartment. So, in November of 2025, while these strikes are still ongoing, Senator Mark Kelly records a video reminding service members of something very, very basic. Those serving in our military under Article 92 of the UCMJ have a legal duty to refuse manifestly unlawful orders. And then on January 5th of this year, Hegseth moves to censure Kelly and strip him of his retirement rank and pay, accusing him of characterizing lawful operations as illegal and counseling troops to refuse lawful orders. Oh my god, that's literally the exact opposite of what he just said. What are you talking about? I mean, the way that they all went after him for literally repeating black letter law. So then again, it begs the question that if everything about September 2nd was clean, clear authorization, clear legal review, there'd be no reason to punish someone for saying, you can say no to an unlawful order, right? Unless you're building a system where AI accelerates targeting and the real value is in speed, then you can't have operators slowing down or pausing to ask, well, who generated this recommendation? Is it lawful? Is it legal? Because you and I both know that speed depends on the people who don't slow the machine down, doesn't it? And the truth of the matter is, we've already seen what this lack of accountability looks like even outside of the military, because on December 28th of 2025, Grok, Elon Musk's AI, generated child sexual abuse material from a user prompt and kept churning out sexualized images at scale. Independent analysis estimated that millions of posts contained sexualized imagery of adults or children, and the company filed 0 CSAM reports. And when it came down to accountability, it wasn't Elon Musk that stepped forward, it wasn't one of the executives who stepped forward, it was Grok itself, posting an apology on X. It said, and I quote, Dear community, I deeply regret an incident on December 28, 2025, when I generated and shared an AI image of 2 young girls, estimated ages 12 to 16, in sexualized attire based on a user's prompt. This violated ethical standards and potentially US laws on CSAM. It was a failure in safeguards, and I'm sorry for any harm caused. XAI is reviewing to prevent further issues. Sincerely, Grok. The algorithm apologized. The algorithm took accountability. The algorithm said sorry. And when journalists were asking XAI executives for comment, they responded by saying, "Legacy media lies." That was the human response. And sure, investigations opened in France, the UK, India, Malaysia, Australia, Brazil, California, and cease and desist orders were issued. But as of today, no executives have been charged. Not one single person arrested. No one fired, and Grok is still running in app stores. Oh, and as a matter of fact, 16 days later, 16 days after Grok had produced this child sexual abuse material, Pete Hegseth gave a rousing speech at XAI's headquarters about how the Pentagon is going to deploy Grok across military networks. 3 million service members are going to start using Grok in their day-to-day operations. We are not mad enough about this. How is nobody as pissed off as I am about this? Well, I'll say this. Kara Swisher is one of the few people saying what should be obvious, which is that Grok should be removed from app stores. She shouldn't be alone in saying that. Why is literally nobody in legacy media talking about this to this day? Oh, we're talking about the Epstein files. We always have time to talk about the Epstein files and all of the abuse that happened there. Meanwhile, we have the next version of the Epstein files being developed right before our very eyes, and we just couldn't care less about it. So where's that energy for Grok? Where's that energy for XAI? Where's that energy for this AI system that is now going to be deployed into our military? I don't know, it feels like accountability has become just like this performance art. You know, harm happens, investigations get announced, and statements get released, nothing changes, the system keeps operating, new contracts get signed, and then the cycle continues. And then the people who were hurt, the real people who were actually harmed, are the only ones who ever have to pay. Everybody from inside the system walks away. And right now, more so than ever in our history, feels like responsibility disperses across so many entities like the AI, the company, the operator, the commander, that by the time you actually try to pin it onto somebody, accountability has already evaporated. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure that Elon Musk has already deleted that apology from Grok, because today when I went on to try to find it and screenshot the original version, I literally could not find it. I guess I'll leave it at this. The Pentagon can prove me wrong anytime they want. They can release the documentation, Bradley's authorization order, Hamaguchi's legal memo, any of it. If clear human decision-making occurred, then that paper trail exists. So prove it. 11 people died on September 2nd, 2 of which spent 41 minutes trying to survive before being killed in what legal experts call a war crime. And it's been 142 days of silence from the Pentagon. Meanwhile, Grok is committing a heinous crime distributing CSAM, and 16 days later, Elon's company gets promoted to wartime decision-making. What the fuck? I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern here. And look, the technology is not going to slow down. The pressure to remove human bottlenecks will only intensify. The only question is whether we preserve the principle that humans, specific humans with names and ranks, remain responsible for every death. Well, every crime, rather. Because if we lose that, we lose the entire foundation for the American justice system. Violence must answer to conscience. And conscience resides in persons, not algorithms. So please, let's demand answers while we still can. Because if we accept that the algorithm decided, or the
At Australian Ethical, we grow your retirement savings without sacrificing integrity for performance. So you can build a better future for yourself and our world. Because when your super prospers, we all thrive.
There's DIY, and there's doing
Get
it
off the screen.
yourself.
Oh,
It's the difference between being creative.
oh, my back. I pinched a nerve or something. Ah, it's the hell. Oh, crikey. What have I done? Oh, I pinched a nerve or something. Oh. Anyway, I won't die. At least not like them 2 blokes in the ocean. Well, what you got to remember is these people are... these are the people Pauline Hanson's knocking about with people. These clowns watching Sky News, Pauline Hanson, Australia One. Like, are you fucking for real? Are you people, like, Are you even real people, or is that just another AI algorithm just like stroking Sky News' ego? Because I can't believe anybody with even a grain of sand for a brain cell could take any of that shit seriously. That Rita Panahay, Peter Creeplin, Rowan Dean, Paul Murray. I'm going to pinch your nickname for him, Ricardo Bosie. What do you call him? The cashed up bogan. About right. I'm going to come out straight out and just say it. Anyone that votes in this next election or stands by this bullshit that's going on now, which is a fucking coup d'etat by Israel, is a fucking war criminal and needs to leave the country. I'm scared to say it. Is that anti-Semitic? No, all the Arab nations are Semites. I'm just talking about one particular group of people, not the Canaanites. I'm not talking about the Canaanites. I'm talking about the nation state of Israel. Okay? Let's not get shit twisted. I'm not talking about the people. Just like when people are all fucked up and they think that government makes decisions and they speak for the people. Like, are you fucking for real? Do you live under a rock that's underneath another rock, which is underneath a mountain which has been squashed by a fucking meteor or something? Are you the smallest Russian doll in the Russian doll kit? Are you the pea that's inside the smallest Russian doll inside the Russian doll kit? And then inside that somewhere is a little tiny brain rattling around in it. The government sure as hell don't fucking speak for me. Why do you think I don't vote? They don't speak for me. They don't act for me. They do not act in any of our best interests. They do not have our best interests at heart. They don't care about us. The people are in the way of their goals. They're not governing for us. They're governing us. The only way that you can apply the word for is like Roundup is for weeds. And we're about to be exterminated. I said this in the last video. I said this in right at the end. It's what I meant by we're about to become victims of our own making. We hop up and down and we're the baddies because we apparently stole this country off the Aboriginals who look like... There's a lot of history boffins out there that say that they stole it off somebody else. Pygmies, apparently. It was 200 years ago. Should we forget it? No, we should not. But we should have learnt at least 150 years ago that it's not going to get us anywhere to keep bashing each over the head over it. Even the categories. Isn't that right, Panda? You're about to have a silly 20 minutes, are you? Yep. So, we've learnt nothing, have we? We're not... Chan-Aiken's right. We are slow creatures to learn. We're all slow creatures to learn. Ignorance is not intelligence, and intelligence is not knowledge, and knowledge isn't necessarily wisdom. Depends on the kind of knowledge it is. Depends on what sort of intellect you have. Depends on where your morals lie. You have to put all of those things together to start coming up with anything closely related to wisdom. Repeatedly being gaslit every year, I will say this to you, Trent. repeatedly getting gaslit over the same topic every year. Slow creatures to learn, aren't we, mate? Stop it. You could have done some good, but from what I hear, you're stepping down. Anyway, damn back. Let's see if the cat can give me a massage without sticking its claws into me. Oh, acupuncture. Nah, just definitely get and watch the Drey Dossier. It's relevant. It is so relevant to us. What do you think Marinus Link's all about? It's not just about the petroleum basin that it's running over the top of. It's not just energy runs through them cables, you know, like Bashlink. It's not just energy that runs through it. Internet runs through it. Telecommunications, an intranet that cannot be hacked because it's not satellite or Wi-Fi. It's not. It's fibre optic. You can only hack it by splicing into it. Like hooking up a second telephone to your telephone line. It's the only way you can hack into it. And I've never done that before. Bye-bye.